City of Mexico Beach Planning Zoning Board regular meeting this Wednesday, January 4th, 2017. And when you're ready, Adrian, I guess we need a roll call.
Mr. Coakley, Mr. Bush,
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan, Chair Teal,
Here.
Ms. Kidder,
Here.
Bill Driver,
Here.
and Ms. Wilker.
And our next order of business would be to have a motion to accept the October 31st, 2016 and December 5th, 2016 minutes.
I move that we approve the October 31st and December 5th minutes.
And we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, we're flying right through it. All right. Now, first discussion item is the Corey PUD, which we have a rendering here we've been looking at. And I guess this is in front of us because it's commercial development.
Well, it's in front of you. The reason this resolution was the first item on, past the minutes, was the fact that our city council has taken some action to date so far.
Right.
And Mrs. Wilker, we have some absences, so you get to sit in the front row.
Come on up front.
Coming your way.
Anyway, the PUD process was first started in 1999, which is almost ancient history by now. Because of its ancient history, the records are suspect at best. The developers, the Corey family, maintain that they've got approval from the city council to approve the PUD. And as you can see in the minutes that are excerpted in this resolution, such was the case. But we have no record of following the proper procedures. So what the council has done is they has passed this resolution, in essence saying that they're confirming the action of the city council back in 1999, confirming the PUD. But also they have to realize that the Corey family has to apply for a change in the comprehensive plan future land use map to comply with that particular map. In other words, what we have on the zoning map has to comply with the future land use map in the comprehensive plan. So that's their next step.
And that hasn't come in front of the council yet.
That has not. But the Corey family thought that because the plan and zoning is an important part of the process, you should at least be involved and kind of get some general idea what's going on and why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the Corey family would like to address this body.
Absolutely. And we can start with any discussion from,
Thanks to you all for your time. Happy New Year. And I'm Jack Corey and our good realtor friend Zach Childs. In essence, I think where we're at is been somewhat confusing. I can understand both sides at this point, but we were actually required or asked to come back to planning and zoning. So prior to a formal application with P&Z, starting with P&Z as I understand it, and then back to the council, and then address the need for an ordinance and for a comp plan amendment. We simply wanted to say hello and answer any questions or share information such that when we come in for a formal vote, it won't be, what's all that going on. And let's see, I have some notes. I'm the best speaker. But I've got some basically survey plat maps that might be helpful in addition to the big rendering. Thanks for bringing that, Mel. And as everything that's happened from '99, then the hiatus, and then we did some in '09. We did to the property itself, and then by way of permit state agencies. Then as we came back for the last year or so, we're thinking that while it's generally conservative, it is a mixed use scenario in that the current zoning, as I understand it, may allow quite a bit more units, but it'd be single family only. And that would be difficult in our mind. And so we thought with something similar to this rendering, where we can set aside the wetlands and then do some cluster properties, cluster housing, some single family, some office up toward the front, and maybe even some commercial toward the front, then that's gonna be a mixed use of it. So why not start with the planning and zoning and approach a zoning change to mixed use? And then if we could play it by ear and see how that sits with council after we get y'all's recommendation. We can then see how that fits with the current rendering of a PUD and the cost and complexities of following that through. Or if our brokerage firm can market it as a mixed use scenario, then we could get prospective developers way smarter than us to come with their plan, and at least they will be on first base, and we'll have some land use that we can share with buyers other than, well, we don't know for sure what you can do with it. It's just a big vacant piece right now. And since in the last, through this process, we've been basically growing timber. So it's a gentleman's farm of sorts waiting to be used in a much better use.
Is this entire piece of property under one zoning? Or is it broken?
Yeah, and it's confusing. He answered the technical part, and I think it's all one, but when we went back to try to help figure what we can do and how we can go about doing it, we looked at state maps and county maps and local maps, and sometimes that's just been kind of there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I was a kid, we used to spend our summer, my father was in construction here in the rental business. We worked here every summer. When I was a kid, that was a landing strip for small planes. And again, there was this little concrete factory or facility there of some sort. And then we worked with the city when they did some dredging. We allowed some of the residue there. And now we hope in the future maybe to hold hands with some players and maybe get more of that dredged. And so there's a lot of things we still need to do to the property itself, but we can't really do anything with our efforts to market it without getting a handle on what can it be used for.
So are you looking for a PUD designation for this? Or are you
I
looking
think
for a
ultimately-
change in zoning to mixed use?
Well, there again, and I know it's a little gray, and I've been confused by some of this as well. But as I understand it, that a PUD designation to some degree is a zoning in itself. But you're limited to a reasonable facsimile of the conceptual drawing. So until we get a prospective buyer, I thought if we got a mixed use, then they may come along and just flip that upside down.
Mm-hmm.
But the city would still have to approve either one of them.
Right.
But
Because you have on here that a variety of everything from townhomes, single family, patio homes, clusters, and commercial. So in order to encompass all of those different types of
use and
uses, whereas up to the commercial, I could see them all zoned as a certain thing, but then you've got a little spot here that you want zoned.
well,
That would allow commercial and-
Also, we would hope to have some office if
Mhm.
demand called for it. Matter of fact, a ton of time ago, when we were working with this, and certain people thought that the city when they work with cities like this civic center right now, which would be good, and that would lead into a carefully planned development.
Right.
So a lot of that's still up in the air.
Is,
But-
let me ask the council if anyone can offer up, because I'm not exactly clear. If it has a PUD designation, can part of it be used as commercial, or does that have to be designated as a commercial area?
When you go through the PUD process, it is designated what uses are within the PUD. So it could be a mixture of anything that you and the board approves.
So preliminarily, though, we're looking for, we already sort of have the council saying, yes, we should allow this to be a PUD.
They're confirming what was done in 99,
99.
correct?
So they're gonna make reapplication for a PUD now at some point?
They will have to go through the public process of getting the future land use map changed so that it conforms.
So that it's designated as a PUD?
Designated as such. Right now, it's the PUD concept.
Right.
In other words, they get the zoning change and it goes to PUD concept. Then they bring the developer in once they get one, and then they go to the detail trouble of going through the development order process.
So this discussion is essentially that. It's a discussion that
discussion.
says, hey, the Corys would like to see how we feel about them moving forward to try and obtain a official PUD designation to develop this property,
Or something similar.
maybe
or-
something like this, or whatever they eventually put out in front of us.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I've been kind of learning, well, I'm a real estate broker, I'm about half retired, and just mainly do rentals and such, but I'm learning as we go that when it's a new concept to regions, kind of like PUDs maybe are, we're not always sure what's exactly the best way or the right way or how to do it. A lot of times, we do what we think is the right thing and do a lot of work that direction, and we're told, and
And there's a bump in the road.
it's, and not that it's any one entity's fault, but this is done a pretty long effort.
I mean, rather than doing, I mean, we could discuss this at great length. I don't know what input the council has, and we'll get to that. My feeling is start the process and see where it leads you, in terms of what we, the council, think I'll have to call for the council's opinions on it.
Well,
But it sounds like we're in a very preliminary stage.
well, we are in a sense, and then we had hoped we weren't so early. Because every time you hire people to reconstruct scenarios, it seems like about a minute.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, this is beautiful, you know.
And some people, everybody's not gonna like anything the same amount, but.
Well, it's not a highly visible area. It's not like we're arguing something right on 98 or,
And the perimeter, the top side and I guess part of the east side of the city limits runs right along. And so we border with, St. Joe, I think it's still St. Joe, that's up. And I saw a plat, an aerial that suggests something about Water Tank Road that runs right along the top of that. Does anybody remember that road? But anyway, I'm thinking other ways for emergency access or escape or whatever. So a lot of that kind of thing will be played through with the council once we decide for sure about a plan. But quite frankly, at this point, I was hoping at least get y'all's feedback on
Well, let me
zoning
do,
that would allow this kind of thing, which I think mixed use will.
let me do this and ask the council's input at this point, if you want to remain in case they have direct questions, but can we open a little discussion and see
I
how?
have a couple questions.
Okay, good.
Mr. Corey, what's your definition of a cluster housing? I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I think what it's called over there is probably patio homes, but it would be basically shared space by way of, it wouldn't be a typical full lot. It would be more like apartments, if you will, or shared space for, what I like to do with multifamily is connect them with a neutral spot like carports or garages, things like that, but
Similar to Pier Road kind of thing? No? I don't know.
It would, in essence, it would maybe by density, but not by design. I mean, it would be
Right.
more of a garden area.
Because that's my question. When you're looking at this, I was curious as to what you're looking at density, because I mean, that's pretty dense right here,
Yeah. Well,
per
that-
acre. What are you
yeah.
looking at per acre?
But
for
it would
density?
have to meet our
Well,
regulations.
if it's all mixed use, it encompasses everything in the area, not just there.
Right.
So what is highly dense there would apply to somewhere else. That space would come into play.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but this is most likely, and I've got, well, these arrows off to show you, but next time I'll bring some topography maps and such, but this is, and again, my engineer has retired, but this is most likely that some of the highest ground is probably why they chose this, to cluster here, and then, the single family are more broad down near the channel.
And I think these kinds of questions will certainly be scrutinized and discussed if you get to the point that you're actually submitting.
Oh, definitely. But this, every piece of land is unique in itself, and certainly one this big is gonna have some good, bad,
Yeah.
and some ugly, but, tell me if this is right, Zach. I think, is it rural residential, which it is now, which is like one?
Residential single family, so in theory, they could do 6 per acre right now, or 522 units. That's where, asking for around 200, they feel they're asking for less than the maximum, but you're gonna have some differences rather than just single family. Could you practically put 522 single family on there? Probably not, but they're just trying to do a more marketable design that has a little mixed use that is more what everybody's looking for.
But like Jim said, you couldn't fit with the setbacks and all single family have, you just did all the highland you had and do single family, it would be tough. That's why you get to one of these
Sure. Kind of like
scenarios
a
that's
mixed
got
use
kind of a mixed
development.
bag to it.
Sure.
And as it approaches, back out to the front, then you get back where I used to think it'd be a civic center.
Mhm.
I'll say, Jim, I think I understand your question, and councils, I think everybody was a little confused on this at the last, we've never seen one. I've been coming to these meetings for 11 years. There hasn't been one except St. Joe Bonfire Beach, and there were 19 attorneys that ran that kind of through, and it got vetted, but it was a very, very, thorough process. But like you're saying, yes, if it's changed to all mixed use, then technically you can do that here or there. But somehow Bonfire was approved with limitations. So the whole thing is on mixed use, and it's part of the city, am I correct on
It
that?
is.
And they have their limitations where they can put 46 condos, 120, I don't know their exact number, single family. So that's kind of the model, I think, is the only way this is gonna work, but nobody seems to know exactly how they got that approved. So we're trying to figure out, well, what is our next step to submit an application like they did? That makes sense.
Any-
I weren't even that familiar with their history, but what I was thinking is that whatever is gonna be good for the city, the city fathers will be looking at those site plans
Sure.
beyond what is zoned.
Yeah, this will be scrutinized way beyond what we're doing.
Yeah, and if somebody else comes in, oh, no, we'll move this canal over here and do this, and then it's up to, again, the city.
Right.
The city in their knowledge can make what's best for the people.
Any other questions for him?
Zach, you said 522,
87 acres times 6.
but I think in our requirements, it's 25% needs to be set back for green space.
That was just, that's just a gross statement. There would be limitations, but what he's saying is that this is not over the top by numbers of units.
Yeah, well, I mean, I come up with like 380 or something like that if you took 25% away, 6 per acre, so you're still under that.
Twice that, yeah.
Where's that 25%? I just need to
It's
get
in the LDR.
On 40 for specifically for residentially zoned, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Not necessarily a PUD.
It'd take me a while to find it, but I just looked at it a couple days ago, and I'm new, so I might have been misinterpreting
No,
it,
you
but
might have seen
it definitely said
something
25%, what it applied
That
to.
would make sense.
Yeah, and then the other part is it said in 10,000 square foot blocks, usable for all the areas, so you couldn't tuck it down in one corner theoretically, and the other people wouldn't have access. And, you know, wetlands, what's the definition of usable of wetlands? You've certainly done a nice job, you know, the way this is laid out, but, you know, that to me is all down the road, because once the PUD's approved, you know, you got a year
Then you get down to the nuts and
to
bolts.
turn in the plan, nuts and bolts, and show us exactly
Yeah,
what
that's
you're thinking.
another thing. We don't know how the buying public, ultimately the folks buying the individual units, but the developer to take it on, whether or not they'd be dead set on how I had it done in 99.
Right, I'm sure that.
And some argue that, well, a lot of things have changed at Mexico Beach, but not really. I mean, fortunately, Mexico Beach is still.
Yeah.
I personally, and I don't think there's a motion to be made. I think we just maybe do a roll call of yay or nay, that we each feel what they presented at this point, we would encourage them to move forward. Is that the kind of, would that be an appropriate action?
I think that's right. I think that's all we need to do.
Okay. Well, is there any more discussion, or should we roll with that? Okay, Adrian, if you want to, I'll surmise it, I guess, that after a lengthy discussion on the Corey PUD North, we're going to make a roll call on each planning and zoning member's opinion of whether or not in concept what they've started with is something that we would encourage them to move forward with.
So is that a motion, is what you're?
No, just, I'm just trying to, I don't think a motion's in order. Maybe it is, but I don't think so, because this is just a discussion about a concept.
You know, it's just discussion is all it really is.
And we're just
So
trying to.
there's really no need
we're
to
gonna
vote or
either
anything.
say, we like the idea, or we don't like the idea. We encourage, to give the council some feedback on how we feel about the information presented tonight, is all I'm working toward. Or maybe it's just now generated in the minutes, but I'd like to hear each person's.
The minutes will not reflect anything that's not action, so it's going to say discussion ensued and a brief overall. There isn't going to be each individual's remarks.
But, yeah, we don't want y'all to get more formal than.
So should we make it a motion?
Make a motion for Mr. Corey proceed with his plan. Okay,
Yeah, we could just be invited back.
to change the zoning to reflect the land use map for whatever he wants to do.
Just encourage us to.
If we
come back
believe
with
he
a
should.
meeting or something, would be
Are you
more
making that motion?
I am.
And do I have a second?
Would you repeat what you said?
That Mr. Corey proceed with his plans to change the land use for this suit his development. He proceed with his plan.
Take the next step. And do I have a second?
I second.
I'll take a roll call on that. Please, Adrian.
Ms. Kidder,
Yes.
Mr. Driver.
Yes.
Chair Teal,
Yes.
Ms. Wilker,
Yes.
and Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Now, I would,
I'm sorry, can someone from.
Just before you move on, I just want to ask,
certainly,
thank you for that, and I appreciate all you guys volunteering. I sat up there for a while. We're a little confused, or I am at least, and I'm trying to help the Corys with the paperwork. We never got to see anything like this. So what, the last meeting was the council, them telling us to proceed. So we think we're proceeding, but what step, can you give us what is next? Is the land use is what we're thinking?
Do we come
Not the
back?
PUD, or
we
what
go-
are we?
do we not get on the agenda now for a formal meeting with P and Z?
Well, you have to fill out the application for the land use change,
Assuming all that's put in, you're thinking land use change is the next step, or?
and you got to do the FLUME, the future land use map, and the comp plan. So it's a small amendment to that.
We were gonna take one step at a time, though. We don't wanna start the amendment until we get approved with what we want to, how we want to amend.
Right, normally this is done simultaneously because you can't approve something on the zoning map unless the comp would allow it.
Okay, well, would the city council be in cahoots with this board's recommendation on the comp plan one, right?
Cahoots.
It's up to the city council.
Yeah, I just think basically we need to see what you're looking at doing before we can say whether or not we'd approve it. And until you come forward with something that we can determine whether or not that's, you know, in accordance with what we're looking at.
There again,
then-
I think that's part of what we may have accomplished tonight was we stoked the fire a little bit and maybe we can, see from this what.
And I think what the board then said is, well, you've got a good idea here, why don't you start jumping hurdles and
Yeah, there's-
and see where it goes?
There's potential here, now it's up to you to carry it to the next step for us to take a look at.
We appreciate y'all's time and when we're finished, hope you don't mind if I scoot, I gotta get back to Canada tonight. We,
Okay, our next discussion item, I'd like to put it on hold for a moment and go ahead and talk about the commercial development, and then after that, we'll go back and start talking about our public engagement. Anybody have a problem with that? Apparently not. Well, Mr. Cathy, would you want to enlighten us a little?
Not what to put. I just have a simple commercial development order on the piece of property. The map or the drawing as far as the layout of the warehouses is attached to the development order, and I can answer any questions, but it's
There is no variance involved, is there?
no variance.
Okay.
No variance, it is
Which
it's
would,
pretty simple. I mean, it's.
which would be our main concern as the
Meets all
planning
the
and zoning
impervious
board.
surface, it meets the square footage, it meets everything.
And-
I assume y'all have the drawing.
Yes, sir,
I assume you do.
we're in line.
Okay.
I guess this is just coming in front of us to, I mean, normally what we're here for is to say, does this meet all of the regulations, and if there's no variance involved, then apparently it does.
Right, the LDR states that commercial development orders can't be signed by me until you and the board tell me I can, which
So
is why
let's-
you haven't done many of these.
I understand.
Right, we
Let's
haven't done many in a while.
Open this, is there any council discussions, questions, or opposition to this non-variance request?
The reason that I've got this language on the front page of this agenda is that that's cut and pasted from the LDR. In other words, this is an administrative hearing to hear anything, which you did from Mr. Cathy. And so that's the procedure we have to follow. It doesn't mean you have to read every one, you just have to ensure the highlights of, you know,
Right.
is there any conflicts, things of that sort.
So if everyone would take a moment and review the order of proceedings, and if they have any issue with any one of the 5 items, let's discuss them, and then we'll have, after the discussion, we'll see if there's a motion to either recommend or not recommend the content of the proceedings. I'll briefly run through them. I would assume jurisdiction is the approval of the council and the city for, and they'll determine whether or not this meets all the criteria and that there's not a variance put in front of us.
Right.
Does anybody here feel like they need to abstain or disqualify themselves from this discussion or this eventual motion?
I do need to state that I took a look at the property the other day. There was nobody there.
Okay, I don't think that disqualifies you.
We saw it as we passed by to come to this meeting, didn't we?
This will go through all of the necessary scrutiny at some point for state laws, applicable ordinances, resolution rules, official policies. Here again, without needing a variance, it doesn't really fall on planning and zoning that'll go when it goes through all of the process for the development order.
You know, we've gone through quite a bit of the process already on the staff level, and that's why the development order itself is in the packet. You can see where this meets the square footage, it meets the impervious surface requirements, the building area is sufficient, everything is in compliance. The only question that I've been asked, you know, outside of this process is the stormwater issue. You know, this little hole in the parking lot here, that's the holding area for the stormwater for this whole development here. Bo Creel did call Preble Rish, who designed that stormwater retention area, and said that even if that lot was to be asphalted over, then that stormwater area can handle that. It was designed for this whole commercial area. We don't have a copy of that plan because that plan was done a few years ago. We can't find it in any of our records, and Preble Rish purges their records every 10 years, and so it's older than 10 years. But nonetheless, the engineer did talk on the phone with Bo to assure him that sufficient stormwater is there.
All right. Staff developer, interested persons. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? And is there any other questions or discussion from the board?
Al, I just had one question. On the drawing, the property actually faces 31st, right? So then on the commercial side, it'd be no setback on the sides, 12 feet on the front, 20 feet on the back, but you have the easement agreement to cover all that. So my question really comes down to, with your experience and the amount of time you were on the council, how is the alley treated? Is the alley treated as a roadway, therefore needing setback? Because we can't tell from here. It looks like there's two different boxes, I guess, on what we've got. One shows a corner right on the alley, the other one shows parallel to it, and just if it's to scale, it's about 5 feet or something like that.
Yeah. That was researched, and I'll defer to that to when I raised that question at City Hall.
Right.
With the building department. It's not a, quote, city street. There is no setback on that
So we don't need
alleyway.
we don't need the 12 and we don't need the 10 as a corner lot
Doesn't apply.
because it's an alley.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I mean, that's,
What you said is correct, sir.
Got it.
Any other questions or discussions? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that the city council approve the development order as written.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And shall we take a roll call, Adrian?
Ms. Kidder,
Yes.
Mr. Driver,
Yes.
Chair Teal,
Yes.
Ms. Wilker,
Yes.
and Mr. Bush.
Yes.
So be it. All right.
thanks for your time.
You bet. That being done, we had I don't know, a couple meetings ago. I guess some of you were able to attend a workshop, and one of the, I guess, main themes or issues that was brought up about the workshop was public engagement in city government in general, and I guess specifically planning and zoning. And I wasn't able to attend, so if any of you that have some insights and discussion on perhaps some ways that we can reach out to the public more, draw them in more, get them a little more active, I'd like to just open it up, and whoever would like to speak to the issue, we'd love to hear some information on it.
My intent is, what, everybody got a copy of that email that I sent out, what I was looking at on, but my intent was not only to get the public more involved, but to make what we do more predictable. Because thinking if the public can predict what we do, there'll be less question about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And a lot of the things where I see there can be improvement is in the way that we do things, but I think a lot of the stuff is left up to the city government and the city council itself. And I think my recommendations reflect that, if you've read them.
I did.
And I think the best way to approach this is just to take each one of the things that I think where we could make an improvement and discuss those, and if you think they're worthy of consideration or recommendation or implementing, then we address that. If not, then we can just move on to the next thing. Or we can take anybody else's recommendations, whatever you want to do.
And do we have those in front of us tonight?
Yes, you do. They're also up on the big
Order.
board.
Here we go.
Second from the last.
And that first one of the problems I've had since I've been a member of the council is just try and figure out what standards it is we're supposed to meet when somebody asks for a variance or anything for us to look at. Because if you look at the comp plan and the LDR, nowhere does it spell out specifically what the goals of the comp plan are. And I think that they need to be laid out, because if they're laid out in bullet form, or not even bullet form, in any kind of format, where we can see exactly what kind of standards that we're supposed to shoot for, it makes what we do easier, but it also makes, if somebody wants to come in and develop something or to go for a variance, they know what standards it is that the city's looking for. And I think that's one thing that definitely needs to be addressed. Now, it's possible, I pointed out 2 places up there where it's possible that the comp plan and the LDR specifically address those things, but you have to actually read into it. If it's not laid out. And in my experience, if you put things in bullet form, like a couple of the examples I got up there, promote public welfare, prevent overcrowding, maintain pleasing aesthetics and things like that, it's much easier for anybody dealing with that document to determine what your goals are. So in this case, we would recommend that the city council take a look at those and actually promulgate a document which makes it not only easier for the public to understand exactly what it is that's going on, but to make what they do and make what we do easier too, because everything's in black and white that's right in front of them.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of what is in those documents is sort of general conceptual. I suspect if we threw something like that out to the council, they would throw it right back to us and say, give us some examples and where they would belong, to what section of the comp plan, or and how they'd want us to do the homework.
And I would not have a problem trying to work with somebody in development.
Maybe, and I know Candace was able to go and is.
Denise.
I'm sorry, Denise. And you had expressed at the last meeting that your concern in this. Is it against sunshine for 2 or 3 to get together to discuss and bring something to the planning and zoning?
Only if you don't disclose it. In other words, notice it as a meeting. You know, you can't meet privately.
Okay.
But if I could help this process along a little bit, I've been talking to Alera, our planner that we have, is our consultant for the city. And it's not ready for prime time to bring out our timeline yet, but there's some grant situations that we can get from the state to help us with our comprehensive plan. Everybody knows it needs to be redone, no question about it. And that whole process will encompass a lot of what you're talking about here, where not only will you be asked what you want for your goals, but the public will as well. There's always a situation where some charrettes will be involved with the public invited to tell us all what they want.
And at those meetings, that's where individuals from this board could insert their input for their reccommendations or ideas?
Most certainly.
And the public as well, is that?
And the public as well.
Yeah, now, we've lived with what we've got a long time.
Right.
That doesn't mean we have to live with it a lot longer. Is this something that's 2 years down the road?
Well, the process will be started this year.
It will be started
But because
this year.
there's so many public engagements that needs to be done to do it the right way, it will take quite a few months to get
So
done.
we could each, as individuals on this board, come up with the kinds of things that we might see that need what we would consider improvement or change or insertions. And then once this process starts, we could get involved with that. That to me would make sense rather than prematurely us throwing a lot of time, effort, and into something that probably would say, well, that's a good idea, let's see how it works when we get ready to do the revisions. So maybe what I'm suggesting is for those of us that would like to, and I assume this relates to the comprehensive plan, not the LDR.
Correct.
So for those of us that would like to start doing our homework in the comprehensive plan and interjecting or being prepared to present recommendations and ideas once this process begins, and maybe even prior to that, when we have some forewarning, we have at a council meeting, at a board meeting, where we all discuss them openly and maybe tweak them a little, or not everybody's going to come up with the same stuff and the same ideas, and maybe unify it a little bit so that once the proceedings take place, we'll be kind of a unified group with some agreed upon changes and that we feel would be beneficial.
Another good thing about that whole process with the charrettes and everything is not just that we advertise a meeting, people show up. A lot of times that doesn't work, but usually you reach out also to key stakeholders in the community. If you call someone and invite them, then they'll come to things more readily than if you just call a meeting and notice it, you see.
Right.
So key stakeholders, both from the business side and the residential side, commercial side, will all be invited to take part. And usually the planner will want to meet with you guys individually as well as the key stakeholders individually and privately, and then bring what they learn back to the public charrette so that we can all discuss what we all learned.
for tonight's meeting, does this sit well with everybody that we start doing our little individual homework and work toward being well prepared at the time? Or do you think something more immediate needs to take place?
I would like to see us come up with something that if we don't give it to the council, or that we don't put it in the new comp plan, at least that we can use it internally, so that everybody's on the same sheet of music within the board. And we can each come up with our own ideas, bring them together, and then to basically decide, this is what we want to do. Because right now, the LDR doesn't spell out any goals at all.
Right.
And we need to, the comp plan is basically how the LDR is implemented.
Right.
So we have to have those goals before we can do anything with the comp plan. And I think we need to determine what those are, too. And then if we're not going to push them forward until such a time as that we're doing the whole comp plan, at least use it internally.
Well, I'm not saying not to push it forward in terms of bringing it together as a cohesive group, but probably not implementing it until such time as it goes into the comp revision, rather than trying to do a mini revision in between. But I like your idea about creating a cohesive group concept, and I certainly think that's something that we could pull together with time alone and then time at a meeting to present those things and kick them around.
If I could also go on to number 2 on this list, where there's a suggestion that the public would benefit from annual briefing. We're going to do that this year. Everyone knows that July is our budget month. You know, every week in July is on a Monday is when we have each of our budget meetings. It would be beneficial that we have what we call the State of the City address or program, whatever. It's even been suggested we even cook hot dogs and feed people to come. Sit down and listen to exactly what we have done the past year, what we hope to accomplish the next year, and get public input about what they wish to see us accomplish in the next year. Because it's with that public input that you have a lot better budget that the public would be comfortable with.
See, I think if I'm interpreting this correctly, I think where you're going basically is we have an outdated document that's a little bit vague on one hand, and that would be the refining of the comp plan. But I think you're also saying, as a planning and zoning board, outside of that, we need to develop some discussion and gather some information on maybe how we can be more effective as a board. So it's kind of a two-part thing.
So that will be implemented this year then, Mel?
Yes, sir. We're going to do that in June, which is the month before our July budget meetings.
Okay.
So I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong or redirect me, maybe where we're at with this discussion is sort of 2 sheets of paper, those things about the comp plan, and this is for each of us sort of individually to do first, those things that we feel need more definition or refining in the comp plan as one discussion page, and the other discussion page being, what do we do as a planning and zoning board to refine our process? Of course, we take our guidance from the comp plan and the LDR, but there may be some ideas about how we can better improve, say, our meeting process, or what our basic goals are beyond comprehensive plan revisions. So if we're all good with that, we got a little homework to do. I think you've already started the process pretty well, and I think we need to get the rest of us putting some ideas down to contribute at the next meeting about beginning to bring this into focus a little better and put a little more definition to it. Anyone else want to kick something around about it?
Mel, you have access to other cities' documents.
Sure.
Which, a lot of times it's instead of inventing a wheel, just massage what we can get our hands on, and that would probably be helpful to have some excerpts that talk about what the goals of their LDR are. I think when we went to the training, we saw, was it Miami or Lauderdale? It was a great big, remember that one he showed us that was huge, that had so much stuff in it. We just need, we're 1,000 people, so we don't need, however, 2,000 pages or whatever that silly thing was. But at least the guts of some good ones for us to kind of look at and say, well, gee, I like that phrase, or, promote development, maybe that doesn't apply to us. Just
Or it
throwing
helps
that
bring
out.
this concept into
Yeah.
focus type. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
So I'd be happy to, if you tell me where online to go, or if I can get access to something, I'll be happy to dig a little bit and dig it up, or call somebody and get them, or, I know you've got probably an association you belong to, or whatever, so I'll be happy to dig for the stuff and cull through it and get the pages to you, then you can distribute to everybody what those say. That seems to be, in conjunction with our ideas, at least one part of what we could do.
Sure.
To get things down on paper.
Are we all good with that?
I guess the only question that I would have is that, different people communicate in so many different ways. And a city can never be great at everything and getting the word out because we don't have the staff to do that sort of thing. So when you individually want to know something about what's going on with the city, how do you access that data? Do you read the newspaper? Do you listen to the TV, the radio? Do you check our website? Do you check Facebook? What's the biggest tools that you individually use when you want to find out? Or do you call Mel and say, what's going on? You can do that too.
And part of this whole discussion in terms of public engagement is, how do you get the word out to the public about upcoming, this whole community should know that we're somewhere here in the near future gonna rewrite the comprehensive plan. Now, hopefully many would be interested and concerned. It affects you and your neighbor and your neighborhood and everything about the future of this community. But here again, like you're saying, how do you reach those people and generate some interest? And that's even a discussion item that I don't know if they covered it at the conference, but that's something we ought to have included in our ideas the next time we come together, as to
And part of the issue is also, a person has to want to be engaged. A lot of people have other things to do and really, I don't want to say they don't care, they've just got more
They're going fishing.
pressing priorities, exactly. Or if you're a young person, you're running the kids around here and there, that sort of thing. One of my favorite stories when I was in Wisconsin, there was an older man that came into my office and he said, "You guys never tell us anything." I said, "Okay." And he said, "I never know when the meetings are." I said, "All right." They're posted on the library doors, or city hall doors, the post office bulletin board. Do you go to any of those places? No, I don't go to the library. Okay. Do you go to the post office? No, and if I do, I don't pay attention to that bulletin board. Okay. Well, do you get the newspaper? No, I don't subscribe to the newspaper. Okay. Do you listen to the radio? No, I don't listen to the radio. Okay. Do you watch the Access channel where our meetings are broadcast live? No, I don't like watching TV either. Okay, you got to meet me halfway. You know, so it's incumbent upon the individual to want to be engaged. Obviously, the man didn't want to be engaged, but he wanted to complain about it.
Sure.
That never happens in Mexico Beach, by the way.
Well, having been a non-resident for 19 years or 20 years, and then moving down, I think one thing we should look at is how do we reach the folks that aren't a resident, that own property here. They don't vote, but they pay taxes. And yes, we
They're
send out-
impacted by decisions that are made.
Absolutely. And number-wise, how many, we have 1,000 and some residents, and we have how many dwellings? You know, people, so they
Almost double the dwellings. Of
yeah,
the-
they outnumber us quite a bit. So I think it's important, whether it's the water bill letter, which a large portion pay online, so, that doesn't reach everybody, but I don't think there's any one answer. It's got to be a broad brush of, it's on the website, it's social, Facebook, whatever it is. It's just like now, we just talked about this. I wonder how many people in the community in the next week will know that we talked about that, or what that's all about. They may think the hotel thing came up again. So how do you convey the right message, or not the right message, but
Or
what
how do you
happened?
even get the message out?
Right, what happened, what's going on? So I think it's an important aspect. I think the council's the same situation, it isn't just us. The attendance at the council meetings, pretty slim, if people are getting the information that way. But, so, anyway, I don't think it's a problem unique to us.
Well, let's each put our little ideas together, and when we come together next time,
Wait
maybe.
just a minute, I'd like to proceed with the list, because a lot of the things you just talked about are on the list.
Okay.
Number 3, Adrian? Okay, this is up to you, and I can remember there was a time when the stuff was posted online, like a day before. 3 days, I think, is the minimum. We've been getting that lately. Is that doable? 3 working days?
Thursdays. But there is.
Because now that we're meeting on Wednesday, Thursday's great for us, and if you could do that for the council too.
Well, council has a resolution that tells me I have to by a certain time.
Okay,
And now this one, P and Z does not, and it's not me, it's when are you gonna get everything to me and the people who have things on the agenda. It's not when I put it up, it's when I have everything from everybody else to me to put up.
is there a way that we can,
We try all the time, but yet we still are waiting on people to send things. So I've just started dropping them. I take them off the agenda. If you don't have it to me, I'm gonna take you out.
I mean, if we could get it on Friday, that would give us easily enough time to look at it.
It's Thursday
Wednesday
at
meeting.
4:30 is when I try and have the packet done.
Okay, yeah, and it gives the public a chance to look at it too, so they've got time to mull it over in their mind too. Okay, number 4. This is, the events tab on the city website does a pretty good job of telling people what's going on, but there's no way for the public to contact the city and say, okay, these are my concerns, or this is what I'm thinking about what you're saying here. And I'm just wondering if there's any way we can do a link on that city website where they can just send a comment in or suggestion or something like that to the city. Because right now, there's no way for anybody to do that I'm aware of.
Well, everybody's
make it clear.
email is available.
That just makes it a lot easier.
But yeah, if you had it actually as a topic, but then who is going to manage that website? Because,
It is not managed in-house.
There are certain things we can, excuse me, add to it, but when it comes to the actual management of the website, you know, we contract that out. So any changes, we just email it to them and they make the changes for us. I think if you click on the city administrator tab on the website, you'll see my contact information, but your point is very well taken. There's not one spot where you go to, it says contact us, and it summarizes everything for you.
right.
So
And
that's
that it-
something to
that
look
it-
at.
I mean,
think.
yeah, I really think
People
there's,
recognize that, oh, well, here's where I make my comment or concern.
or if you have to email somebody directly, at least say on that city website, if you have a concern, this is who you talk to, email address, such and such. Because right now, there's no way to do that.
Right.
Easy enough.
And then we talked about the water bill thing. Number 5, the social events are basically the only thing right now that's covered on the monthly electronic newsletter. Is there any way we can put other stuff in there?
We certainly could. The reason it's done the way it is because the electronic newsletter is the same as the newsletter that goes on the back of the water bill. And so for cost sake and space sake, we only got one page. And by the time I put one little paragraph in, we got room for the meeting dates for the P&Z and City Council. We have enough room for the sanitation schedule for the next month when there's a holiday, and a few of the special events going on. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for me to do much of anything. So we print that to the back of the water bill, so we don't have to do a second page.
How about those people that get the electronic water bill in? What are they getting?
They just get the same back.
They do?
They get an email. Well, of course, you have to flag it. When you sign up to do the automatic thing, you can flag getting the newsletter.
And you have to physically click to read it. I have people that get online bills that call me and say they never get the newsletter because they don't read their email. They won't click the link to get it. Shows up right in the email, click for the newsletter, they won't.
Okay. And then my final one is that I believe we should have established rules of procedure. I think that it makes what we do far more predictable. We don't have to stick to those rules 100% of the time, but on a big item where you've got 900 people that want to speak, you need to have established rules of procedure and implement them when necessary. And I think you had mentioned before that the council does have rules of procedure, Mel?
They do.
Is there a reason that we couldn't use those? I mean, just implement what they've got, we look at them, if they fit us, then fine.
Sure.
But I think that's something we need to have, and I think the public needs to be aware of them. I think that they need to be published somewhere where the public can see what they are.
And it used to be in an ordinance form. We've simply done away with that ordinance, now made it a resolution. Because, for instance, if the ordinance said that he had to get that agenda out by 4:30 on Thursday, and our computer is down, he can't get it out till Friday, he just violated an ordinance. That's not fair to him. So we finally done the right thing and made it a resolution where if you don't get it by 4:30 on Thursday, Friday works fine as well. So if you wish, I can email you all that resolution which lists that procedure. We kind of use that as a starting point.
If you get it to everybody, we can take a
Kind of
look at it.
tweak
That's
it.
something
Yeah,
we can
that's a great
discuss at the
idea.
next meeting.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. And I'd like to solicit ideas from the public too on something they might have, what some of these ideas they might have, that we can mull over while we're going to discuss these in the future. Public?
The very first thing that I think the P&Z board should do is have its own email addresses, just like the council members. There's no reason for any citizen to have to go through the city administrator to get to P&Z members, just like we can address city council members with their Mexico Beach Gov address. I do not understand why the P and Z does not have that same?
They do.
We do. If you open, when you go to the site, if you go to
Planning and zoning.
planning and zoning, then it'll list each one of us individually with our email address.
Okay.
Which is not their personal email address.
Right, it's
Mexico Beach Gov
I
addresses.
remember the bugging about that very much.
yeah, it's right there to be,
Okay.
Aren't
But
they pretty standard?
I think what Lisa's trying to say, though, like my email address is mel@mexicobeachgov.com. Our city council is mexicobeachgov.com. You guys are not. And the reason being is that we have the capability with our email extension to have our calendar synced with our desktop, our iPads, and all that kind of good stuff. That costs money. I'm not saying you guys are not important, but you probably don't need that flexibility.
I mean, they can go to that site,
If
click
it's on
on,
the website, then I'll go find it again, because
Yeah,
I've
it's-
surprisingly never seen it.
it's in there under planning and zoning, and you can just click on any one of us, or you can make a group if you want to hit all of us, and,
Aren't they all pretty generic as well? Aren't they?
They're very generic. In other words,
Just like
for the
Toast
two
two.
alternates, it's like MB for Mexico Beach, ALT for alternate 1 at gmail.com.
Okay.
For the post number 1, it's MB
Post one.
post 1 at Gmail, something like that.
Well, I applaud you for trying to figure out a way to get more public involvement. I've been here 15 years, and I'm still trying to get more public involvement going. And the consensus among so many of the people that I have talked to is unless it directly affects them, they're not interested. They want to be left alone. I disagree with that, but that seems to be the general consensus. So if you can figure out a way to break that cycle, that would be marvelous. But
Well, human nature being what it is, that's probably not going to happen, but what we need to do is to make it as expedient as possible if they want to. That should be the goal.
yes, and that's a very plausible goal, and yes, I think so, because I've never felt that just posting something at this store and posting something in the post office is adequate, and that was all we had for many, many years. I mean, I can go for 3 months without going to the post office, you know? So we have more things available to us at this point in time than we did 15 years ago. We need to utilize everything. And half the people don't even know that the meetings are posted on the city website at this point. I mean, they're still wondering why they can't get it on Channel 4 or Mediacom. So it's a public education problem.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know this building exists, and this is where the meetings are.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it may take some sort of education campaign.
but here again, what you're, and I'm not disagreeing at all, the problem is the medium, is the message. How do you,
How do you make P and Z exciting?
well, or not even that, but how do you,
Tell them somebody's gonna build in their yard. Yeah.
how are you,
Next door.
how do you,
Yeah, tell them they're gonna put a condo in their front yard and see how fast everybody will get.
how do you reach out to a particular resident? You know, that, are they gonna look at a website? Are they gonna watch Channel 4? Are they gonna, you send them a personal letter? You know, that gets expensive. I mean, that's the dilemma is,
It truly is, and think about this, Joe, you've been here longer than I have, but I've been here long enough to know that when I first came here, we had a good attendance. 2000, 2001, 2002, 3, we had good attendance at least the city council meetings. What has happened to make it just go, psh? I have my own thoughts on that, but I'm not going to say what they are. But think about that. and try and come up with what you think might work to bring them back, because we used to have participants.
But here again, the biggest hurdle, which you stated earlier, is, yeah, if it doesn't affect me, I don't care.
Exactly.
You know.
That's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do a development back behind somewhere where I don't care.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of town.
How how does that affect me? You know, oh, there's gonna be a little more traffic coming out on 30th Street,
Yeah.
you know,
Then they'll complain.
yeah, after
Yes,
the
and
fact,
then people complain,
after the
but,
fact.
You know, that's the big problem, so, gosh, more power to you, if you think about it.
Yeah,
I know that I am reaching more out-of-town people, Bill, through the newspaper. It's definitely reaching out-of-towners.
yeah. But I'll bet, and here again, I'm not being negative, but if you look at a Tallahassee planning and zoning meeting or council meeting, and you say, there's X number of people in that community, how many are actually there?
I bet we have more here.
Yeah, we may do better attendance-wise than communities like that. And all we're looking to do is even improve on that.
Yeah.
I must say, I've worked in 1, 2, 3, 4 other communities, 2 of which are 6,000, 7,000 people. There's more public participation here than any of those combined.
That's
You know, my last place was 7,500 people. If we had 5 people show up, it was like, what's wrong? What do we do? What's on the agenda? That type of thing.
That was the biggest change for me coming here. as
But
well.
that shouldn't stop us from trying.
That's exactly
And it
right.
shouldn't stop us from trying to figure out ways to make it happen.
Mel, can we look at that sheet, that last item on that sheet you passed out, the 6 things that go wrong with public engagement? In our local government market, online engagement tools now exist. What is that?
Oh, I get emailed about it all the time. It's just very expensive. I mean, there's a lot we can do if we're willing to pay some money for it.
So there's nothing we can do ourselves, we're hiring people out to do that, then, basically.
Well, one thing we had in my place before I came down here, we had an app that you got on your phone, and if you saw a pothole, because there's really not potholes in Florida as much as we have up in the Midwest for
Yeah, a lot
obvious
of cracks,
reasons, right? But if you saw a pothole, you could take your smartphone, click a picture of it, the GPS would pick exactly where that was, you'd send it to that app would then route it based on what subject matter
To the
you
little
gave it.
asphalt men that come to fill in the holes.
And it would route, of course, always to me so I could manage it, but it would also go to like my public works director to fill the pothole. If he didn't respond within 3 days, it flagged it, and I got him out there. And, you know, it was a great tool because the public was our eyes and ears that we didn't always have. But that came at a cost.
But then too, how many people knew about that app?
A lot of people, we got that thing used extensively.
Because potholes were an issue,
Yes, that did.
you know.
Right, that was just an example, but
Yeah, no.
like if you saw tall weeds or something, you know, I gotta say, our code enforcement guy hated that app
Was
because
it free?
it was not free. We were a smaller community, so we didn't use all the bells and whistles, and it was about $4,000 a year, plus a monthly maintenance thing.
It's a lot of money to this little town.
But this little town, I don't think needs something like that to that expense, because we're so small, people can always run by the office and say, you know, Mel, I got a problem over here, or call me on the phone, send an email, call one of the city councilmen, you know. There's a lot of avenues in a small place to do it that you don't really need, like a bigger place.
Well, it's all, try to come up with, more ideas and more discussion, here for the near future. And, maybe we should address this pretty much at every meeting for a while until we're closer to, we can refine our ideas for the comprehensive plan rewrite. That being said, any more discussion on this issue?
Now, was the comp plan, is it the comp plan that was completely redone in 2010 and then sections were redone in 2014? Or is that the LDR?
LDR.
14.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when we did the comp plan, I think I was on planning and zoning.
When I'm looking at this.
Well, with that being said, if there's no more discussion on that issue, we're time to move on to our ever-present miscellaneous, other various and sundry items. Mel?
Yes, sir. At this point, we have no pending applications that needs consideration at the next planning and zoning meeting. There is an item that we did not, there is one?
Yep, you'll have it tomorrow.
I did not know that.
They called this afternoon, sorry.
Okay. I was in a meeting in Panama City this afternoon, so I wasn't around.
You gotta be more engaged, Mel.
I
It was
guess.
in Panama City.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an item that the city council kind of pushed to you guys that we didn't bring up tonight because of the other items on the agenda. It would have been too much. About the item about boat trailer parking and that sort of thing on empty lots. So we'll bring that back next month. I'll try to get out some background information to you guys in the meantime so you know what we're talking about.
So this specifically boat trailers, or is it just parking on empty lots in general? that
Yes.
be addressed? Okay. Well, with that being said, if there's no other public or board discussion, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
In a second.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here.
Mel, is our next meeting first or the 8th?
Effort that you've made.
Mel?
Oh, I'm a bum. I've got nothing else to do with my time.
On the website, there's a whole
You know, you
year's,
covered
Is it?
to me.
isn't that correct, Adrian?
It would be the
Well, thank you.
Didn't you put out a calendar on the
I didn't see
website?
myself.
Mel did.
The 6th of February.
I'd be
On
curious
Monday?
to see
On a
what other
Monday.
people come up with,
Mondays
because
are the days.
It's
that are
just
gonna
got,
be
it's
so-
just covered.
Okay. That's why I was on the wrong
It
day.
seems like
Okay.
Thank you.
Monday, February.
6 o'clock.
6.
Nice to know what I do might be appreciated by somebody.
At 6
That's what
o'clock.
I'm saying.
Be here or be square.